Say what? Good to go? Cool. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chad, can you please do the roll call?
Supervisor Craig. Supervisor Thorne.
Here.
Chairman Shaler.
Here.
Supervisor Bromer. Here. And Supervisor Wolford.
First item on the agenda will be citizens' concerns. Anyone here wishes to address the town board? Can I get a motion to go into public comment?
So moved.
I'll second it. Motion by Bob, second by Terry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Who wants to start? Go ahead. Go ahead, Andy.
All right. Name Andrew Jewell, address 2830 Bay Shore Drive. Now this is in reference to a order that was sent out by Pat Post on January 7th, 2015. This is actually the third, this is the first order. It's a ordinance violation along the north side of my property where Judy Pace and Mary Malley live. It's in regard to foliage encroaching on my property, taking over the roof of my garage in the southeast corner. Pretty bad. Probably 12 feet over the garage, over the property line. Also, I have some pictures here. I also have some letters here that were written to Judy Pace from Philip Strand, my insurance agent. In a recent review of property insurance with my client Andy Jewell, it has come to my attention that the trees on the edge of your property are endangering his home. This presents an increased risk for damage to his property, and he is very concerned about this exposure. In an ongoing effort to control costs, we have at American Family conduct an on-site survey every 5 years for all of our clients and make recommendations for repairs of these increased risks. Andy asked that I get in touch with you to express the concern we have for the potential damage to his property in an effort to enlist your help in either trimming or removing these trees from your property. Appreciate your consideration. Sincerely, Philip Strand. Also have here a letter from my attorney that I had him write to Judy Pace and Mary Malley in regard to this violation. It states, Dear Miss Malley and Miss Pace, this letter is to advise you that as soon as practical, weather permitting, our client will be having branches and other debris from your trees encroaching on his property trimmed. Please contact Mr. Jewell directly should you have any questions about these proceedings. Telephone number so-and-so. Sincerely, Mike Hirsch. These are two letters that I had sent to Miss Pace and Miss Malley. I also have pictures here of the foliage encroaching on my property. I have quite a few of them, as you can see. This is the third time that I've gone to the town board and asked them to send a letter to Miss Malley and Miss Pace in regards to this problem. The last time I had Mike Hirschman send a letter, they called me up on the phone and they said, these are 100-foot pines. They're about, 15 feet away from my property, 100 footers. They're 2 inches in diameter. And during the course of the winter months, the snow builds up on these boughs. And then the sun melts them, and then they turn into a big block of heavy snow, ice, and it falls on the roof of my cabin. Broke 3 rafters in my cabin. I had to take the roof down from the inside, the ceiling, and fix them. I'd appreciate if one of your supervisors would handle this and send them another letter stating an ordinance violation, and possibly institute a fine of not less than $300 or more than $1,000. This has to be taken care of.
So if they do come, Andy, to trim that tree, you're not.
Pardon me?
If they come to trim it, you're not going to try to stop them, are you?
No,
Okay.
no. They can come on the property too if they like.
Okay. Go ahead, Mitch. Got something?
No.
You want to add? No?
No.
Okay. All right, Andy. We'll see what we can do.
All right,
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Debbie Seiler. I'm here looking for an update after meeting with Davy Engineering about Lake Del Rey.
We talked about you today. So we're still, haven't won anything from when we had our meeting. I don't know anything else from that. But I had another idea that that we're starting to pass around here. But I need to talk to Kevin about it too. So by next month, maybe I'll have some information for you on that.
Okay.
If that helps.
Thanks, Debbie. Anything else? Go ahead.
Did you?
Nope, not yet. Go ahead.
Okay.
Just state your name first.
Okay. Barbara Ball, B-A-L-L, 104 Goddard Place, down by Kenka. We have someone across on Hiawatha Island. I don't know where it was. My uncle used to have a brother that lived there. I always called the place the castle, and it's next door to the castle. And get my facts here, on Goddard Place, that's blocked off because it's a fire lane. It's not a road, it's a fire lane. And there's 2 blocks there. And this guy come across with a crane, picked up the block, and moved it over so the truck, their big truck, could come through. I think they were gassing up or something. They went through and down towards the river and did their gassing up, and then they came back and they took that block and they put it right next to the other one. So now cars can get through there in that spot. They'd have to go over my daughter's land to do it, but they can get in there. So what I'm proposing is they have 2 blocks there now. If they could take a 3rd block, and I don't know who I'm supposed to be addressing here, but they took a 3rd block and put it next to that one, they wouldn't have any place to put. They couldn't pick it up and just move it around. The other thing is the people that did that, the company that did that, came over, and my neighbor, who kind of watches out for us when we're not there, she said, who are you with? And he said, we're with Lacrosse. And she said, are you with Lacrosse or are you with Campbell? He said, I said Lacrosse. And the thing was that the trucks were not marked, and nothing else was not marked with either Campbell or Lacrosse insignia, which means he lied. So she just left it go because she thought it was from Lacrosse. I don't know who has jurisdiction down there. I believe that's our road, isn't it? Isn't that the French Island Road?
I believe so.
So that's our road. So they have no reason for being able to go down there and start moving things around. You know, the reason we blocked it off is because we had so much trouble with people coming in there, drove into my daughter's house, actually came up and got in this way somehow and plowed into her house. They took out all the grass seed that when they put the new road in, they came up the road, and the guy is either drunk or something, went over to my neighbors, took out all of their grass seed, just made it a muddy mess, backed up, came up this way, came up over this little hill, almost to my mailbox, and just dug up all the grass seed that they put in there. So they're making a mess. And this is just one incident of trouble we're having down there. Things are beginning to be stolen. So anyway, I asked that road be blocked because it is not a road, it is a lane. It was a fire lane, that's why it was put there. 2 cars cannot get down there at one time. There's no place to park because it's my daughter's land, which has, there's no parking there. And then on the other side, it's all trees next to the trailer park. So it's not a good place to go. So I would really appreciate it, if it's a possibility, to put a 3rd block in there, which I think may help. Because the road does not go down to the river. It is not a landing. It stops here and it's a good, I don't know, what is it, Terry? You've been there.
I don't know.
I wouldn't.
It's a ways head down to the water from
But
there.
it's a long ways before the water.
Bruce, did you have those put in? Those blocks?
I believe we did, yep.
Okay. We'll look into either getting the one moved or putting another one in. I'll run down and take a look at it.
Yeah. If you can't put the 3rd one in, at least move the 2nd one so people can't drive onto my daughter's land and get around there.
I'll take a look.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. Who else? Somebody else? Who's next? Go ahead.
Gary Simonson, 128 Locust. Since the town is not obligated to hold citizens' concerns before and after the meetings, I would like to propose that we just have a 3 to 4 minute session, if any at all, at the end of the meeting and stuff. And if you have things that you want on the agenda, you should see your supervisor or come to the town hall, and so you can get something on the agenda instead of making this a session that we don't really need all the time. And in regards to the fire department, a person claiming to be Campbell Jim has voiced an opinion about the fire chief and the departments recently. He claimed that the chief was not at the fire on LaFond Avenue and therefore is not doing his job. He volunteers like all the other members of the department. For your information, he was at the fire. And for you to claim that he doesn't have time for his daughter has nothing to do with the fire department. This is defamation of character, harassment, stalking, and plain lying about the department and the chief. These could be punishable items. There's free speech, and then there's plain harassment, which is what's going on at every opportunity now. And Campbell Jim, Campbell Bob refused to use your real names on Free for All Friday radio program, WIBZM. You smear others, don't know any of the facts of which you speak, but continue to spew the lies. Do you have any idea what's going to happen in 2025 if we don't have a fire department? You don't like your taxes now, wait until they double when all the residents can point to 3 or 4 people and bring Campbell into the city. Amen.
Thanks, Gary. Who's next? Go ahead.
Paul Andrus, 119 Dorn Street. The next door neighbor, 117 Dorn Street, it's a rental. There's a tree, I measured it today, the circumference is about 10 feet. Several years back, one large branch of the tree came down and knocked out the main power lines that come down the alley between Bainbridge and Caroline Street. So it left the inside of the tree gutted. We had somebody chain it together because we're waiting for it to fall. And it was stamped, they put a stamp on it last year in the winter of 125. I was under the impression that the town of Campbell was going to remove it, but apparently that's only ash or some other kind of tree. And I'm wondering what I might pursue. Right now the chain is holding, but like I say, the circumference is 10 foot, and when it comes down, it's going to take out my house, and well, at least the front of my house, and maybe the next door neighbors or the guy that's renting the other house, and probably the power lines.
Is it on the town right away?
It's stamped, and I think they were stamping just
It's on
one.
the town right away, but it wasn't an ash tree, so it wasn't removed. But if it's that dead, we'll take a look at it. What'd you say,
It's
117?
117. It's on the back side of the north side of the tree.
Okay.
Front looks pretty good, although if you look at it close, it's split from
Okay.
the
No,
crotch
it
all the
should
way
be
down to
removed.
the
Yeah.
ground.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next? Go ahead, Joanne.
Joanne Shower, 2312 Bainbridge Street. Is there any update on doing something with the intersection right out here with everybody running the stop signs, or is that at rest or dead or what? Because I still seeing a lot of cars that are running this stop sign out here coming from the north side by the catwalk and coming down and saying, oh, okay, zoom right on by and zip right through the stop sign. And also, is there any ordinance about the Jake break-in and the no mufflers on the semis coming over?
No,
They
that's-
are, it's getting worse and worse and worse with that too. I thought we had an ordinance on that for Jake breaking and no mufflers on the semis.
I know we
There's,
did-
there's signs posted for it as
I thought we
well.
did it. Well,
Yeah, there was signs posted out here on the interstate.
I don't know if they're still there. They were taken down when
Yeah.
that project,
That's what I'm wondering, if
Happened.
they took them down and never returned them.
that might be.
I looked into the intersection a little bit. I'll look into it some more.
It really needs it.
Yeah, I looked at some signs, but we'll look at some more. I'm trying to find something that's cost effective, but yet something that flashes.
Before I left for the clinic today, there was 4 of them, one right after another, coming out of the Days Inn and not stopping at all.
Okay.
Thank God Bonsack's truck drivers have good reflexes on their foot to stop. Otherwise, it would have been a much.
We'll see what we can come up
Okay.
with for it.
Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else? Next? Go ahead.
Yeah, Shirley Family, 1511 Caroline Street. Are you still issuing fireworks permits?
That's on the agenda.
Well, the reason I ask, I presented this to the board a couple years ago, and I get nowhere, but I'd like to see a community deal like up at the airport with fireworks. Anyone that wants to set off fireworks, let them go up there and, you know, avoid the neighborhoods. But I say, I don't get nowhere with this. And there's not enough police enforcement around here that here and there you call. They don't have the time to get to all these places, whether they got permits or not. And I know they're supposed to clean up after themselves. They don't do that. So what are we supposed to do? Report them for use? I mean, really, I think if there was a community up at the airport where anybody on the island wants to set off fireworks or go see them, like over in the city of La Crosse, let them do that. Forget our neighborhood.
I'm with you, Shirley.
Well, then I think we should do something about it instead of listen to, you know.
I'm only one vote. So I guess. You got anything else for us, Shirley?
No.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce Becker, 3111 Lakeshore Drive. Terry, what'd you take away from that fire protection meeting up there in Alaska last week?
Oh, I kind of, myself, I always thought the city and the town fire departments were working really good together. You know, I've seen them fight fires together. I've seen them train together, and then all this stuff was coming out. Do they want to make one great big fire department for everybody? I don't. Would it ever happen? I doubt it. It could, but I don't know if the towns would be in it. Would it just be the cities and villages? Where it's going from here? There's another meeting scheduled, but I haven't heard anything. I'm sure there'll be updates.
Yeah, the other thing, what did you mean when you said that things were good up until about a month ago?
Well, that's when La Crosse's fire chief come up and was saying, you know, about being the one great big fire department and talking, but I know, like I said, I always thought they worked great together. I've seen a lot of fires where both Campbell and City of La Crosse worked. Got anything else, Bruce?
Yeah, F under the business. You want to explain what you got going there, Bob?
The boat landing permit changed to parking or use.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it is, looking at changing that launch to general parking or use permit.
What would be the reason to do that?
Majority of the use at the landings is probably just parking or mixed use fishing, parking.
Is there a problem up there with parking besides the boats and the trailers and the boats? Is there other parking going on?
The question that's been posed, if people have a permit to use the boat launch and have nowhere to park, why are they paying for a boat launch permit? So that's what started it.
They're running out of parking space up there?
Yes. Yeah. Up where are you talking? Pretty much every landing is that way.
That cover in the winter too?
What's that?
In the winter for ice fishing?
Probably, I mean, that's what we'd have to do, it'd be general, everything. It's supposed to be a launch permit in the winter as well, but nobody ever, that's part of the problem. So when they launch ATVs or whatever they would do,
Walking in? It's hard.
walking in is, I mean, just parking use permit is what they're looking at.
Anything else, Bruce?
Yeah, couldn't that fence be taken down up there for more parking if there's that much of a parking shortage up there?
Oh, where is up there? Where are you
It
talking?
would be Nelson Park.
Which fence are you talking about?
Well, you know, around that turnaround, I mean, that could be moved or taken down for more parking.
That cable?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's open to whatever. That's
Pretty soft.
it's pretty soft, and that gets used by people that park in the parking lot as a park area. So
Yeah, you could put some recycled blacktop in there, you know, and roll it, that'd be, make for a lot more space.
I guess where I'm going with this, I'm hearing that you oppose the parking, the change to parking or use permit, and just want it to be a launch permit. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I didn't see anything wrong with the way it's working right now. I mean, they're finally starting to, I think, get some money built up so, you know, they can use it for maintenance and whatever for the landing.
So would it be a fair assessment if you've got money built up for it now with just a launch, and if you were able to get all of the revenue for all the use, be better?
I would think the launch thing is working fine. I mean, if you're gonna put your boat in up there, you buy a sticker and that pays the way.
Okay, well, I mean, I duly noted that you oppose. I know there's people that have called me continuously that have issues with nowhere to park. That's why it's on there.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else, Bruce?
That's it for now.
All right, go ahead.
Tell me 1315 La Crescent Street. I want to know if the river rat behind me has built more onto their beer garden towards the river. That's what I heard they were building more towards the bank on the river.
They don't have any room there to be.
Because do you think they'd have to get a permit or go to the DNR?
You're correct. They would have to have both, but no, they don't. They have been denied their request for any additional.
Because I know we haven't had any trouble since you got a new guy to run.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Anything else, Pete? No? Anybody else? Go ahead, Lee.
I suppose I wasn't here last month, so I don't get 10 minutes, right? So I'm going to piggyback off of Bruce here for item F. Didn't we talk about this maybe 2015, 2014-ish?
Yeah, multiple requests have been made to do it, yeah.
Okay, so where does that revenue go then? Would it go back to the Park and Rec Department, or would it go to Streets and Roads, or what is it going to do?
Go to the general fund for maintenance and streets and roads or parking or whatever.
So you get a parking permit, and then that lets you be able to launch your boats as well.
You can
Or you
use
have to
it,
get two separate ones.
no, you can use it for whatever your use is that you're
Okay,
going.
so what's set up now is so that way the Park and Rec Department can get those funds and be able to upkeep on that. How is that going to change if you put it back into the general fund? It won't be earmarked for just the boat landings anymore the way that it currently is.
That is an accurate statement.
So then you're taking more money away from the Park and Rec Department.
If you want to look at it that way, you're certainly
How
welcome
is it
to.
looked at different, Bob?
It's all town general revenue money, so.
Except for when it's earmarked.
So Lee, the landing money can be used where?
As a landing.
Right.
Correct. But
Why
what
is
you
that?
just said is it goes back into the general fund.
And then it could
and the
actually
words-
be used for town, for park and rec, where, you know, with a landing, it can't be.
Say that again and make it make sense.
Well, I'll spell it out so you can keep up. The money goes into general funds and can be allocated to park and rec from there from,
But it can be, but it is earmarked always, not stuck back in the general fund of being able to use for
it's
streets and
earmarked,
roads
it's
and
earmarked
everything
for
else.
landing use.
Correct. I'm fully well aware of how that works, Bob. I was on it for 2 years.
Yep.
So I understand how the landing piece works. I'm trying to understand how the revenue piece works. If you're going to take that, stick it back in the general fund, and it's being able to use for streets or police or fire or whatever. If what currently now, they're trying to just upkeep the boat landings. What's going to happen is if that goes back in the general fund, you put it for the streets and roads, then they're not going to have enough money to try to upkeep all these boat landings. Then we're not even going to have to worry about parking there because there won't be boat landings.
Well, that's the forever challenge of being on the board. You have to allocate the money effectively across the whole town to manage it properly for everybody's use. So you're right now you're advocating for the people who launch a boat with a trailer.
So your
to
assumption
pay-
is correct that I'm against what you're
It is
proposing.
accurate.
Yes.
I totally get that. Yep.
Okay, roads. Where are we at with filling the pools that are in front of or on Church Drive there?
They are horrible.
I would have to, if people are driving through my yard, they're driving through my neighbor's yards to get around them. We have trucks that are going through. When the trucks hit those, I mean, mine included, but I do a good job of trying to avoid those. They chip away at them. I had to pick up my garbage one day because somebody tried to avoid it and it blew up, hit the garbage right in the middle of my driveway.
No, I believe it. They're in really bad shape. So the small stuff that we haven't got filled yet is all delayed because of the weather and our street sweepers down. I know that doesn't solve the big stuff. I plan on getting some quotes together here before the next meeting, and we're gonna come in. We're gonna.
So should I come over with a wheelbarrow and fill up a wheelbarrow and fill them in myself?
If need be.
Well, I think the need is there.
Yeah. The guys are going to be out later this week filling in holes. Now the weather's cooperating. That's not going to do your big stuff. I plan on looking at some of these severe areas and getting some quotes. And we're going to
Well, I think that Church Drive at that lower part there is a little bit more than just patching. It's going to be a complete redo since the water rolls right down into that one. Those two spots there. My poor neighbor down the street is like a river rolling down with sprinkles.
Yeah, no, we've it's high on our priority list.
It'd be nice to have some additional revenue for that. Probably
It would be. I wonder where we could get that.
You can take it from the Parks and Rec Department.
And you might as well take it from there, Bob. If I wanted sarcasm, Bob would ask for it.
Make it a general fund.
One more thing.
You took it sarcastically.
Yeah, I guess so.
Go ahead, Lee.
One more thing. So you guys are probably really sick of me bringing this up. Open records. Now, I realize that I'm not the most favorite person, maybe amongst a lot of people in this room or you guys up there, but I don't think that actually gives justification to not fulfill a bunch of my requests. Currently, right now, I have more than 3 that are more than 4 months old. I have 1 that's over a year, 2 that are over a year old, and I get nothing from the town attorney. I get nothing from the board, and I've done a good number of reminders that, hey, this is active, this is active, this is active. It is against the law for you guys, for anybody in the town, not to fulfill these requests in a timely manner. That being said, I do have 2 complaints to the DA and the Attorney General's office for them not being fulfilled, and there are more to come. So I just wanted to give that a heads up to you guys.
I was at a meeting with him last week that said that he was in contact with you and.
I'm not referring to the one last week.
Okay, so you have been in contact with the attorney.
I have, but that one there is slightly more ridiculous than the other ones. The response is slightly more ridiculous than.
He's the guy you're going to have to work with.
I realize that, but the town attorney is less than useful when it comes to me trying to get a hold of him. So I have to go about this a different way, and hence the reason why I got a hold of the Attorney General's office. So I don't need a response from that. I just wanted to let you guys know.
Anybody else? Go ahead, John.
Up on 1503 Caroline Street. Dorn Street is getting ridiculous, and I don't think we should let it go much longer. Holes, holes, and holes. I mean, it literally shakes your vehicle to drive over them. And I mean, why do we have to keep asking? Let's get this repaired.
you're gonna have to cut a section out, quite a long section. We have Doran Street and Caroline Street intersection. It was tore up by the plow. And I've said something to you know who up on that board that we need this looked at. It needs to be taken care of. We got kids on bicycles that are trying to go by them. We got cars that are nearly hitting them because they're trying to round off these holes and bad spots in the road. Let's get them done. Thank you.
Anybody else? Can I get a motion to call the public comment?
So moved.
I'll second that. I got a motion by Bob, second by Terry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's go down the consent agenda. Items A through C. If there's no action taken on the consent, could I get a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
I got a motion by Bob, a second by Mitch. Any discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's move down to business 5A. Presentation of awards for community heroes Sharon Severson and Timothy Colgan. Drew, you in here?
Drew's out there.
Oh.
I am here. Sure. Come on. Hi guys. So on a much lighter note. You guys get paid for this?
Not enough.
So this is Sharon Severson. This is Tim Colgan, both residents of French Island. And I know Tim has a whole bunch of family members here tonight. Sharon, do you have anybody here? No. Well, you have me. And we have everybody else here. Back on April 28th, at about 2 a.m., there was a fire reported over on Youth Road. And the fire was actually reported by Miss Severson, who was out delivering papers that night, which she's been doing for how many years?
Like 25 years.
25 years. She saw the fire. I think the fire started relatively small, and it was kind of like
It was pretty big when it started, but then it started eating Zappel's garage, and then the trees, and boom, and boom, and boom, and I started beeping my horn, and I think it was your neighbor, and I think you were looking out the window wondering what the heck I don't know what I was doing, and then I got him up, and then he come running out, and then I went over to the other neighbors over there, and then got them guys up, and then the fire truck finally come, and so then I was able to go on my way.
So the moral of the story is she called 911 and she started honking her horn just to get someone's attention.
Yeah, I was out there for a good 10 minutes before these people got up, and I could see in the middle of the night, nobody wanted to get up, but.
Well, somebody wanted to get up. Just got home. So Mr. Colgan heard the honking and got up and looked out the window and saw the car and thought maybe that Miss Severson was having some kind of medical issue, so he went to check on her, and she pointed. And suddenly Mr. Colgan jumped into action, and not only did he go and knock on a neighbor's door, but he actually went to the house where the fire had started, knocked on the door, and made the folks aware. And this is at 2 in the morning, so people were sleeping. And had it not been for the action of these two incredible folks, that could have been a big tragedy. All too often, especially at that time in the morning when there's a fire like that, it's too late. I responded to that fire on LaFont Street. I got there, the thing was fully engulfed, and there was smoke bellowing. I can't imagine, how fast that stuff happens, how quickly it escalates. So with that being said, ironically enough, it was Tim's nephew, Sean, who was an Alaska police officer, who was one of our responding officers, who came that night and was able to help kind of with the evacuation and sort of get things ready as the fire department arrived to put the fire out. So with that being said, we felt that it was very important to recognize both Timothy and Sharon. So what we're going to do is we're going to present both Timothy and Sharon with the Citizen Service Award here from the Town of Campbell Police Department. And what the plaques say, Citizen Service Award awarded to both Timothy J. Colgan and Sharon A. Severson, whose assistance to the police department was given without regard to personal welfare and had a positive bearing on the outcome of an incident and contributed to the safety of the community at large. So I just want to recognize both of these fine folks for what they did. They very well could have saved several lives that night.
And I want to thank you guys very much for taking such an active role in such a heroic act. So, Mr. Hogan.
Thank you very much. You, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Terry, thank you. Thanks a lot. It's very nice. Thank you very much.
Nice shot, team.
Thank you.
Lost afternoon. Move down to 5B, Jenny Nettles, 1811 Nokomis Avenue, request for a third dog.
Want to speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm not sure about this process, but seeking a permit for a third dog. I did go and all adjoining property got an okay from adjoining property owners. And also have a note from our vet, kind of a recommendation note. And then, I don't know if you're interested in why we're seeking it, but I'm actually a special education teacher, and the two dogs, we have two beagles, they're puppies, and I'm in the process of training them to be therapy dogs to take them to school to work with kids. So that's why we're in the process of doing this too, plus they will be family dogs. And they're so cute. How can you not? And there's that treat chat if you need that. You guys have any questions? Is there, like I said, I'm not sure about this process.
What schools will they use?
Actually, Winona. I teach in Winona Middle. So.
And that third dog permit, typically in ours, is a one-time use thing, so you'll have it for the life of whatever.
Right.
So, okay.
And that was the question that I had. I wasn't sure how that worked, so it's just the one time.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's usually a transitional. People have two dogs, one's expiring. They
Right.
get a third one, so.
Yeah.
Neighbor signatures?
Yeah, with that being said, just make sure you pop into the office here. There's a multiple permit that you'll have to apply for and pay for, but
Sure.
if the board approves it.
Move to approve. Third dog permit.
I have a motion by Bob, second by Mitch. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
And you know, it's always me. Following the ordinance, sorry. I understand. The ordinance says two.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
5C, Bryce Nelson, Davy Engineering, to discuss cost estimates for replacement of asphalt with concrete in the in-town yard waste site.
Actually, I don't know if Bryce actually was going to show up today or not.
Well, we can go over it. We initially budgeted $70,000 for the project, and the total cost actually came in at $146,125. That included adding.
That was just option one.
Option one, the maintenance one, yeah.
Yeah, well, the whole project.
Oh, the whole project. Yeah, the entire project for all the town hall was $246,935,000. Option one was to replace the pavement in the maintenance yard, which is asphalt when it really should be concrete. And it also included adding a metal storage, a building for salt, which we do not have, and we pay a fine for that every year.
How much is that fine? You know? Steve? Z? Oh.
Okay. So we planned on doing this project in several phases, options 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I don't know if any of you have a copy of this, but option 2 was to then replace the concrete in front of the shop, which is shifting in bad condition. That's $25,150. And then the southwest side of the town hall, to replace that in the third stage, would be $40,150. And then option 4 would be to replace all the asphalt on the south side of the town hall, $35,510. So the total project cost comes to just short of $250,000. And to date, we have set aside $70,000 in this year's budgeting process to work on option 1. We had additional borings done to see what we needed for the sub pavement and everything else, and that came out to $70,000. That just kind of brings you up to date on where the project is, and obviously it's going to require some additional budgeting and planning over the next few years, and we'll do it in phases. But
So this year you had 70 in there? So
The original cost estimate that we were thinking was going to be about 70. And
so we could do actually yard, shop, yard, and the south, all in.
with what we currently have, we could do the options 2 and 3. But I think more pressing is option 1, the maintenance yard.
I would agree.
So we will have to look at, budgeting that in again next year. If there's money left over. We could eliminate some of the cost by not putting up the salt storage building. That'll reduce the cost roughly $15,000 for that part of the project, so down to about $131,000.
Did Davey make this for you?
Yeah, Davey did this. They came out and did borings just so we knew where we were actually at when it came time to do it, if we needed additional base, etc. In some of the cases, we obviously do. And this also included replacing the fence around the maintenance yard as well. And I think that was about $10,000 of that cost too. So there is some way we can reduce the cost if we do the yard itself. And that comes in roughly at
$10,000.
No, the concrete itself is
concrete,
$75,000.
I thought you meant the fence.
Yeah, no, the fence was $10,000. Then we add in the existing removing and cutting out and putting down the aggregate base. They have about $100,000 for the maintenance.
They do have about $13,000, as you can see, is earmarked for contingency. I guess what we're looking for is, do we carry over what's remaining from this year and look at finishing budgeting up next year and doing the project, or is it a priority enough level that we look at those reserve funds again and possibly getting that project done this year? But if we hold off, obviously we're going another winter.
The salt storage building then would be where the grass would be used in the summer then? Be done.
No, they actually have it positioned kind of where the yard waste site is now.
Yeah, that's where the salt storage would be.
Mm-hmm.
So where would the grass clippings go then? Or would they go in the salt storage building for the summer?
Well, we wouldn't have to put up the salt storage building. My recommendation is that we keep paying the fine because we don't buy that much salt and we don't bring it in until winter season, and it's gone by spring. So we're not holding any product over that we really need the storage building per se.
Okay.
Steve's pretty good about managing the amount of salt he brings in, and most of it's gone every season, is it not?
Yeah. So that being said, you could probably get get the cost estimate down to about 100,000, which means we're short probably about 38,000 for phase one.
I don't know, I think I'd like to start the budget early this year, instead of waiting until the 1st of October to start it like we did last year. And maybe we can get the budget process started and end of next month or something, try to get everybody together.
We'll be in a position to do it that early. because-
We can start talks, but I won't have mill rates and things until around that time,
Until
so.
October usually, yeah.
Yeah, I won't know for sure exactly how much revenue we have to play with until about that time, but.
So being that if we look at it with 70 now and then we did another, if we were able to budget another 70 next year, we'd be able to do.
Without the salt storage, I would say you'd probably be able to do phase 1 and 2 right away.
Phase 1 and 2 then.
If you waited.
And 2 is probably the next most pressing, is that pad out in front of the shop.
While we're in here doing concrete.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a great idea, I think. Especially you can make that all in one pour.
We also go another year without being able to utilize that automatic gate during the
Right.
off time.
Right, because that has to wait until we get ready to do this whole project.
Right.
I'm okay with waiting till the budget cycle to see if we're gonna have any money freed up to add the additional funds, and then go ahead with the project. Bob, what's your feeling on that?
I think that's a great idea personally. I mean, I'd like to stick to the budget at when, as much as we can, obviously, and we should do a pretty good job of that, so. It's bad already, I guess it's the short part.
Yeah.
Having to put up with that little bit.
Kelsey? Well,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
we'll hold that item over to the top.
So we need a motion to carry it over then?
I don't think we have to any action.
No, there's no action needed.
Let's move down to 5D then, set dates and times for fireworks permits.
So I gave you a copy of last year's firework permit if there's any changes to it, or we can definitely add that in. I know the chief had talked about maybe making something on here as well about intoxication levels if you were to approve it, which I can easily add to the permit.
I was reading Shelby's ordinances, they charge $300 for one of these. They don't give money. So I think we should work before next year to make sure we have a fee for this.
Sure.
Go ahead, Drew. Go ahead.
I guess my feeling on the permits is kind of irrelevant because it's a decision the board makes, but there is one provision I would like to see added to the permit that I think we probably could do for this year. And it was actually a recommendation from some of my officers who worked the holiday last year. There was an observation that many of the folks that are handling these fireworks, even the ones with permits issued through the town, were drunk. And obviously alcohol and big things that go boom don't mix real well. So I would like to see a provision on the permits that prohibits the handling of any fireworks, whether it's a sparkler or an M80, from anyone who would be considered legally impaired. Now you can define that. You can define that in a number of ways. You can go everywhere from absolute sobriety to not a drop of alcohol. The way that I think Chad and I discussed it, that might be a good compromise is saying that you can't have a blood alcohol concentration over 0.08, which can be tested with the portable PBTs. That's very similar to some of the ordinances the city of La Crosse has regarding bartenders who are serving. They use the 0.08 standard, which is the national standard for impairment when you're driving. I think it would just at least send a message that if you're going to be out there handling, if you're going to issue permits and you're going to allow them to do it, at least ensure that the people who are doing it are responsible That obviously is more of a safety concern than anything. So that would just be my recommendation for this year's permits. I've also obviously advocated for charging. I know no other community provides free permits that I know of, at least in the area. Most of them only provide for special events, but I think charging for the permits and allowing people to essentially break the law for 2 days is not unreasonable, but I'm told that we're probably past that for this year, but maybe something to consider in the future. But the alcohol provision is something I'd like to see added if possible. So, thank you.
It does say on your, Drew, the town of Campbell has the right to cancel any and all firework permit anytime to maintain the safety of the town and its residents. So I think that gives you the authority to, or your officers, to pull that permit.
We can pull it for any reason.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a blank check for us to pull a permit.
Yeah.
I just wonder if maybe highlighting you've got to be at least somewhat coherent if you're going to be setting them off is not a bad message.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about this briefly?
We go back into
Public comment.
at the end again. So. So, does anybody want to make a motion to approve this?
So the third and the fourth, I mean, I think trying to restrict it, I mean, that's always been the goal, and require permitting, because it's, for a while back when that started, just the history on that, it was everywhere for weeks. So the effort of the permit is from that. The alcohol content part, I mean, I think the better, safer you make it, if we can put it on there. I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
Yeah.
You can't be over the legal limit. Probably a good idea. So I think we got room on that. But for this part here, for what we have set dates on the permit, if we're going to go just straight on the motion, the third and fourth that you have on here, I would move to adopt the third and fourth as the only dates for the permit.
What about sobriety?
Again, I support that on the board part. You want that to be part of the motion?
Yes, sir.
Strike my original motion, and move to approve the dates the third and the fourth with the provision of that you can't be legally intoxicated. Or is that too broad? 0.08, whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever. How do you say that again, Chief? National standard?
Yeah, the national limit is 0.08 for impaired driving. So it just seems to
You can't be over. So adopt.
Can't be at or over an 08.
Okay, strike that. The move to approve the third and the fourth with the requirement that you can't be over the national limit of 0.08 intoxication.
Time limit?
Oh, the one that we have on here, be done by 11 p.m.
Yes.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Bob and second by Kelsey. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. No. Motion carries.
You know? Oh,
Yes.
you were yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, it is.
No, I approve the motion, but I second the motion.
okay.
Move down to 5E, disposal of Nelson Park fence. Kelsey?
We're scratching that from me and giving that back to the clerk. Kelsey wasn't really.
Well, I put Kelsey on there because it's her fence, ultimately. But as all you aware, coming up August, I think 11th is the men's softball league's last tournament, and at which point we've already had discussions about what the city's going to be doing with Nelson Park. I guess we just need to figure out what you want to do, just like any disposal or tear down of town equipment. What you want to do with it? Reuse it, sell it, scrap it?
Steve, how difficult would that be to reuse and erect at another park?
75 posts that got concrete on. It'd be very difficult to reclaim that. But get the concrete off to reclaim them, and then, well, the fence itself, some of it's in pretty good shape, some of it's pretty rusty. So one of my ideas is offer a junker to come in and take out, just give it to them for the price of doing that versus having us do it. Sounds like it has to come out.
Clinton, at the airport, he has mentioned though that he does have some equipment and he will be helping us with the tear down. I don't know the extent of what he is offering for services, but I know he's got equipment that we can use, he said, and as far as manpower, I'm not real sure, but.
Like the benches, I think we could repurpose the benches, we could repurpose the bleachers. We got other places we could put them, but the fence itself, it's very hard to get. And outfield, you got trees growing through it and everything. It's very difficult to deal with that. Make it worth using again, you know.
So do you think there really would be any interest in anybody from a scrap standpoint to come and remove it?
I'm saying let's explore the idea.
It's worth checking into that.
Yeah. And if a scrapper comes in and buys, we'll earmark that to go with the park.
That might already cost in man hours and equipment. We're gonna lose money. Someone who comes in there, and that's their sole purpose of making money. I think you'll get a bite.
What's the date again?
August 11th, I believe, is their last tournament.
How can we find out from him what kind of equipment he's planning on bringing?
Just call them. We can just get a hold of them and.
That kind of matters. We can find that out before next month, and then I don't know. Probably want to put the feelers out fairly soon if we're going to get somebody in here to take it though. Before then.
Use the equipment as a fallback if someone's willing to come and get it.
Yeah.
Green light. So we just have to authorize that, I guess. So.
Can you see the motion on that?
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion that we put it out to the public to see if the scrapper wants to come in and take that stuff.
I
think all we're asking is that you approve that we can dispose of it.
Right.
So,
And then I can
how
do
would
what I
that
want
want
with
to
it.
happen?
Yeah, you can do what you want with it. Yeah, I'll make a motion we can dispose of it. I'll scrap that first one.
Dispose of it as a get rid of it, or we can keep it.
That's up to you.
So I can make that decision. So you're telling me there's none of it can be used again for like, if we need to extend Callaway or add a park to Plainview?
I would recommend not reusing it for that. We're talking 500 feet of fence, redoing outside the outfield.
Right.
And that's what you have there. And like I said, half of it's got trees growing through it and stuff. It's just not really worth reclaiming.
I can get rid of it when I get rid of that park equipment.
So second to the disposal as whoever sees, however you guys see fit to do it.
So the original motion was Ralph, right? Yes. Okay. Motion by Ralph, second by Bob. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Let's move down to 5F. Discussion for boat landing permits to change to parking permits. Go ahead, Bob.
So, we heard most of that conversation already, but part of it is that you can go down to the landings on definitely weekends and see a lot of parking use, general use in those the different landings. So one of the parts that the feedback that I was getting, people that frequently use those landings, and myself included, where you pay the permit and it's a quarter or a fraction of the parking spaces are available for that use. So that since we put that in, or since that was implemented, that parking permit back in the day, the initial, or the boat launch, strike that, the boat launch permit. The initial adoption of that was due to La Crosse implementing it, and then we got flooded with all of their people, all the boat launch that didn't want to pay for the permit. So we just went ahead and adopted the exact same one with that in mind, that at some point, since we were in that now, we would have to, maybe look at it. So long story short, I guess I look at it, there's a lot of general use in those launches, and I know a fair amount of kayakers, canoe people will come in and get a permit, and some don't, we don't know, but they're great spots, fishing, whatnot, and if, I guess to maybe better utilize that space that we have, the value of that space would be to capture consistent revenue, and that really sparked the whole conversation. And the other part of it being that Lee brought up about the money being earmarked, and we end up putting in pavement and pads and stuff at times that just spent, because the money is only earmarked for the landing. So that was the really the precipitous for this. It started back in 2015, or probably earlier than that Lee indicated. But you'll get where people will send me pictures like on a Saturday where there's people parked all over it there. So part of it was there's no organization. It needs to be signed. If we're going to have it available, we should at least have certain spots available or reserved for boat only. And then it just kind of grew into this next piece. So from there, I looked at it and said, well, if that's an option, bring it up, bring it to the board, take a look at it, make it a parking/use permit rather than just a boat launch permit. So.
Well, I've been around for a little over a year now, and I have not received one complaint. So when I receive a complaint, I don't know how you guys all do it, but when I receive a complaint about something that's other than my area, I send an email and direct people towards you, and if you prefer not, then I will tell them what I answer. So I've not received one complaint from Bob telling me that people are complaining about it, nor have anybody called me.
And I didn't tell anybody to call you.
So, I mean, I don't agree with it. I think you're taking away money. I finally have money where we put in the new dock at Fisherman's. We were looking at replacing some pads, and if you're going to take that money away, I already don't have any money. I'm already playing with like nothing. I have to fundraise to get money to do things. I just don't think it's fair to take it away. Can we come up with a different permit? Just a parking permit? Sell 2 different permits? And then you can have all your money? Give it to the roads?
I mean, I'm not stuck in any one of it other than I don't, it's not intended to be your money, it's the town's money, and the town to use it effectively. I don't look at it that way.
Obviously, it's not physically
I know. But
it's the park and rec money, and we finally are starting to make some changes.
But the park and rec money, that's only boat landing money. It's not park and rec money.
I understand that.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah,
It's only
and my
boat
point
landing.
is that I'm finally out of the red, and I'm finally being able to do some stuff and make some changes for all the people that use it for recreational use.
Correct, and that we're only getting a fraction of that potential revenue.
But do you know how much money I'm actually going to get from that? How much money are you actually going to? Are you going to set? Okay, boat landings get 80%, 90%, and then give 10%.
I'm not going to advocate for any of that. I just look at it. That all goes into the regular budget process that we do.
But what I'm trying to say is that the landings won't have anything. We won't get anything because the roads are always more important, which I understand that. But the landings get used really a lot as well,
Right.
and for all the money to be taken away.
So for the landings, we have paved landings at Lower Spillway. We have it at the upper end. We have great docks. The biggest complaint I hear and run into myself is they need to be dredged. Is probably the biggest problem. And the revenue that we get from it, from just boat launches, will probably never fund that. That's part of the other challenge. So you can put in whatever you want at every landing, but if you can't get off the landing, or you can't get in and out of it, then your function is kind of...
I've had one complaint
negated.
about the landings this year with it needing to be dredged. One.
Yeah.
And thankfully, there's a nice citizen here in this room that is helping with that area.
I'm sorry, what's that?
He's helping like, clean up the weeds and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't like it. I mean, if I come up with another fundraiser to put in a pavement, I will. Nobody else fundraises.
Okay, so,
It's not very popular right now, Bob, but if it's maybe something we could think down the road,
Yeah.
maybe the launch permit and then separate park permit.
Well, unless you're gonna like earmark so much money to the park, to the boats. Okay, 90% goes to the landing, 10% of the total taken goes to the roads or wherever you want, the general fund, and you four can play with it how you want.
100% goes to boat launch, just like it is right now.
He doesn't want 100% to go to the boat launch. He wants part of it to go to the roads.
yeah, so part of the challenge, this is me from a budgetary standpoint. When I see money being spent for pads or something that for $10,000, and I know there's drainage issues for a pad that really nobody cares about, or for an extra little drainage way because we got money in a fund, to me there's no other way to term it but wasting money because it's earmarked for that project.
If you're talking
And
about the blacktop that got put down, that was we're paying more money to continually fix the gravel from going all over than we are just to pay to be done with it.
So if you look at North Spillway where they put the pad, the next thing that happens is it washes out around it, which is happening now. That happened at the lower spillway. That sequence is exactly the same. When you start doing that stuff, it takes more money. So if we just said this is a low maintenance landing or unimproved landing, and people want to park there for other use, you're going to still get that revenue. They're going to say it's not a great boat launch, but I can go to French Island or to Fisherman's, or I can go lower spillway because those are paved, and we put docks in at them. So I think from a boat launch standpoint, those we have that. The challenge is if that's where everybody's going, they can't use the boat launches effectively because there's a lot of contention for parking.
I guess I don't know how the permit for people parking is going to really change. So you're going to give you're going to give 2 spots for a car, and then where are the rest of them going to go?
I'm putting it on the agenda for conversation.
Well, we're conversating about it and questioning.
I think where he's going is you're going to capture parking for people that want to park at the spillway, that walk down the spillway to go fishing without a trailer.
Yeah.
Right now, we're not collecting any of
Well,
that
I understand
revenue.
that, but my problem is fine, do it, but I'm losing the money for the landings.
But that comes every year with the budget process and the board getting together to determine how you fund that.
Well, then for next month on the agenda, I would like to remove 2 supervisors because clearly 2 of them can do, or 3 people on this board can do the job of 5. So let's add that to the agenda next month, please.
So it's open.
Yeah.
So
got anything else you want? You just discussion only?
Well, we don't have to we don't have a motion right now. It's brought up for conversation.
Okay.
So can hold it over. It can't be done this year because permits are already issued this year.
All right.
For a boat launch. So
okay.
We got the budget process coming up and we're looking at it.
Let's move down then to 5G, review of Wisconsin Town Association legal opinion on ATV UTV use. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, let's turn up the heat some more. So we adopted the Senate. What was it? The board adopted the Senate the amendment. 392.
Well, what we did is Rick brought this to us.
Yep.
And we looked at drafting our own ordinance, and then we thought, well, why should we reinvent the wheel because the county already has one.
Right.
But that got the DNR involved in it. And they said, well, the county's ordinance is just for preferred routes, and we need to have our own ordinance to allow for operation of recreational vehicles on public streets and roads. The DNR has claimed that we cannot simply do this without their and the county input, but the statute says otherwise.
Right.
But we do have to have signage.
You would only need one coming over here.
Well,
We would need one at
One entrance.
so
entrance.
but they do identify that a little more specifically.
Yeah.
We want to do a little better job, but that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that brings us up to where we, Mitch, thank you for that. So as of April 2018, we just had Towns Association's got a legal opinion in it, which helps define those gray areas. So if we'd already adopted it, and we had interest in people being able to use their ATVs on the street, which we allow during the winter as well for plowing and slow-moving vehicle sign, whatever. So this next piece of actually signing is kind of a requirement. If we're going to have this already adopted, we have to have, according to my understanding of this legal opinion, is we should have it signed. And we could put signs that restrict where you can't go, and that would be, so if there's an area or there's nothing down here, it's a dead end street. We don't want it to be. It's not a trail. We're creating routes, so it's for use, for town people's use. Because one of the things that we've gotten back and a concern is, people ripping all over town on ATVs. Well, that's not the intent either. So it's a route. You can use it from go to the store and back and whatever, but it's not. Yeah. So
Some of the people I have talked to about this would pay for a permit to ride here. So you could get a permit or a sticker that you would have to have on there showing that you can ride here.
And that is the other part of it.
And that's
So
another fundraiser for
that all kind of fits into it. But I would say at this point, I'm not, and this is just my opinion. I have an ATV, and but I ride to the store, maybe once in a while, or whatever, or to my brother's house. So for town residents, this is kind of where I'm looking at it. I don't know that the intent is to invite a whole bunch of people to come and go riding around in the town of Campbell.
Yeah, but then you're gonna go to restaurants and stuff like that.
I don't know how that's going to go. I know that the information we have here says if we're going to have it, which we've already adopted, but we were kind of stuck in what do we do next. And I just thought to get this off our plate, we could do this. We could follow 393 or 2333A-B and address the areas that we want to have as routes. So
they're suggesting routes.
Yeah, routes, not trails. I think you read that.
Well, specific streets too that we would mark as preferred routes. And obviously, I would not have an objection myself to anyone operating it from their home to a preferred route location and then getting on and going. So you make all the main roads, Goddard to Lake Shore, Bainbridge to Dawson Avenue, Fana Reed, Hinkley, all the major streets that cross the island, east and west, north and south, part of that preferred route program. So you could jump on your ATV, say if you lived on the far south end, down by Gary, and get out to Bainbridge and then go wherever you're going to go. But you kind of stick to the main roads, but you're free to operate to and from your residence to get to those routes.
Right. So I know ice fishing is a big one in the winter. Leave their house, go down the land, go down the lake, go ice fishing, come back. And they had that for a while. The DNR put a kibosh on it, and now it's just putting it back to say, yeah, you can go back to doing that. Is what the intent was there. But making it even actually available if you have to go get gas or whatever, you can do that too. So anyway, so at this point,
You should put a restriction as far as you gotta have a machine.
we have the ability to put more, additional
requirements.
Requirements
for operation to make it street legal. Yeah.
So really all I'm looking to do was take what we've already adopted and finish that with defining a route, or defining routes is really what it comes down to.
Well, we actually have to create our own ordinance. They said we cannot use the county ordinance.
Correct.
So we would have to draw up our own ordinance. We thought we could use the county ordinance, but they put the kibosh on that.
Who put the kibosh on it?
Basically the DNR, because they said the county ordinance, which Mike Horstman verified it, is preferred routes only.
We'll have to follow up with, and I do have this in the Brent actually, so I'll do a follow up. But according to what my read on this was, this eliminates that, takes that away, and says that we have the town board has full
That's what the
authority.
statute says.
Yeah.
Authority to create an ordinance.
Authority to
What
create
they
an
told
ordinance.
me.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
But it has to
need
be
an
an
ordinance.
In absence of a written ordinance, I was told that they're still restricted, but the municipalities now have the authority to create an ordinance allowing operation, and then within that ordinance, they can designate routes, they can put restrictions on whatever you want, from safety equipment to however you want to write it, but it's got to be a town of Campbell, because right now, none of the other surrounding communities have or have any intention of adopting an ordinance. So, I mean, literally, we would be an island as far as legal use of ATVs on public streets. We would be the only community in the county that I know of that would allow it. But it would have to be an ordinance adopted by the board, and then restrictions and routes would have to be.
It's my understanding La Crosse has adopted that ordinance.
Yes. They are adopting one?
That they did.
So,
they've already taken a route from Onalaska, and they've been going down Riverside during Riverfest.
Well, get all across and find out what their ordinance looks like. I mean, I'm a big fan of not reinventing the wheel. I'm not a fan of it to begin with, because we're the ones that are dealing with the complaints. But
Well, and we can always do permitting, requiring a permit, and non-resident permits, and make it a pretty costly thing to keep non-residents from operating, from going over here from La Crosse to drive up and down our streets because
I don't know. I'd be
all-
careful. I'd be restricting it just to town residents. I think if you're going to do it,
Well, no, I'm not saying restrict it to town residents. I'd say have a fee for non-residents. We could have a small fee for residents, and then a permit requirement for non-residents to operate over here.
so then the police department would have to pull everybody over and say, "Are you a resident or non-resident?"
No, it'd be a sticker. You'd have a
That's what the
sticker, just
DNR
like we
puts
do.
outside.
Yeah.
So all things to come, I believe, but I just want to verify. So I would have to go back and read, but in here, town board has broad authority to open highways to ATVs, UTVs, Wisconsin Statute 2333, 8 sub B. Allows the town or village. It doesn't say anything about an ordinance.
It does. The next paragraph down, the town board must pass an ordinance.
Pass an ordinance authorizing it to operate on town highways. Add a parking notice. Okay, yep.
Yep. And then it has to be sent to
I know we had to send this
the
copy.
DNR, State Patrol, and
And we'll
County
have to
Sheriff.
find out if we can legally permit too.
Well,
But if we can, I would certainly be in favor of that.
yeah. All I was looking to do is get that thing that's been hanging out there, and people are interested in it. I want to get it to where here's our routes, and if we need to do other stuff after that, then
Well, you'd be better off just to, if you're going to do it, you post signs at the entrances to Campbell saying that all roads are authorized riding, and then if there's any routes or any streets that you don't want them to go down, and
People
post a
want
sign
those.
that this is not an authorized route. Otherwise, I think you'd have too many signs out there posting for certain routes and things like that. Because you couldn't just open it up to say, here's our route, but it's okay to go from one street to get to that route, because then they're breaking the law just to get to the route. You'd have to open up every street and then just signage certain roads that you don't want them to go down.
so ordinance is the next piece. with,
Ordinance would be the next piece.
Right. So,
Hold it over again until we get it.
Yeah.
Rest of the vote.
well, I guess at this point, I wonder, do we need a motion to go have that ordinance developed?
Move ahead.
Yeah. So, I moved to have, I don't know, wants to get, Ralph wants to take it, or streets or roads?
Go ahead.
Move to work with the attorney on adopting an ordinance for
Drafting. How about drafting?
drafting an ordinance for ATV use. Town of Campbell.
I'll second that.
For 2333-870.
I got a motion by Bob, second by Ralph. Any further discussion? I'll call a motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Let's move down to public comment. Can I get a motion to go into public comment?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mitch, second by Bob. Any further discussion? Call the motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We are in public comment. Anybody? Go ahead.
Vicki Andrus, 119 Dorn Street. The other years when I called about fireworks, I was told the only people that have a permit are setting them off legally. But when I asked if the police would check them on a particular area, they said, quote unquote, we don't have the time for that. So how are you going to go check to see who's drunk if you don't have the time to go? That's my question.
Yeah.
You're still at the same impasse that you were before.
Right.
Nothing's being done about the people that are doing them, legally or not, whatever.
The police will have a list of everybody that has a permit, and so will Chad.
I know, but
yeah.
they still won't go check.
That's entirely untrue.
No.
We will respond to those complaints as time permits. Now, obviously, fireworks complaints are non-emergent, which means they don't require an immediate response. A domestic dispute, a traffic crash, something like that that requires an immediate response is going to take priority. I would hope that everybody in this room would understand that those calls are far more important than fireworks complaints. Now, as time permits, we check. And as a matter of fact, I can show you our call log from the last 2 years that we've checked on almost every fireworks complaint that was taken over the course of the night. And about 95% of those complaints were to addresses that had permits, and we couldn't take enforcement action because they were within the permit. With the town board issuing permits takes away our ability to enforce if they are within the parameters of the permit. So to sit there and say that we don't respond is completely untrue. And I have the call logs to prove it. But with one officer working, if they're working a child abuse case or a domestic dispute or they're doing something that's an emergent call, obviously calls like fireworks complaints are going to take a lower priority, and they will. And that I worked for the city for 17 years, and for the 4th of July, all the 4th of Julys I worked, I can tell you that from 8 at night until 3 in the morning, the call screen was full of fireworks complaints, and I would be responding to a fireworks complaint 4 hours after the fact because we were finally able to do that. That's the reality of law enforcement, even with a department like La Crosse that has 9 or 10 officers working a shift. I'm lucky if I have 1, maybe 2 officers working a shift. Okay, so I only have 4 officers currently working for my department right now.
What about the reserves?
Reserves have no authority to enforce.
Vicky, I feel with same as you. I don't think we should have
No, we never
permits.
Well, you're setting up a situation that you cannot monitor or control.
Well, La Crosse doesn't have a permit, right?
La Crosse only issues permits to organizations for events.
And they had a call log that was so long you couldn't respond to it. This was the same. I mean, this is where it started. I don't know that we're ever going to get to 100% compliance, but generally speaking, and it may just be the cycle of time, but from what it was when all the fireworks shops opened up everywhere, it was the middle of June till the end of July. And the police, what Drew just said, I mean, it doesn't change. I know that doesn't change. So, and even by 1 in the morning, I don't know exactly who's shooting out. It's somebody over there,
Yeah,
you know how it is. I know how it is. So that's the effort. I don't know if we're ever going to get to 100% compliance. If we can get some level of these days are it, and then get majority conformance, I think is kind of. I mean, you're always going to have the people that go off that. So.
Anything else, Vicky? No? Okay. Go ahead.
Just Paul Andrus, 119 Dorn Street. Is there any insurance requirement for people that get a permit? And what's the penalty for not having a permit shooting off fireworks if you are apprehended?
It's $140 fine per city ordinance. We're talking about.
So under the ordinance, I mean, if I remember that, looking back on it, or under our ability to permit, we could require a copy of their homeowner's insurance, if I'm not mistaken, when they do a permit.
I haven't looked at that ordinance for a while.
I remember that from back when we did it, but I don't know if we ever got it then. So that way, everybody that was lighting would have to.
I mean, ultimately, though, the liability falls on the homeowner and the homeowner's insurance. I mean,
It does, because if the tree falls on us, it's our insurance,
Yeah.
which is crazy, but.
you know,
There's
if there's damage, file a claim and let the insurance companies.
Yeah, I think if I remember it, when I look back on that, there was a provision in there because it's something that you're doing. If you cause,
Yeah, absolutely.
you have that liability.
You have
for
that
whoever-
liability.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Anything else, Paul? Okay. Go ahead and back.
I'm Dee Mulling, Pool 3 Dorn. I live across from the park. And last year we talked to the chief, Shirley and I, and we told them, whoever had, if they had a permit, they were letting the firecrackers off in the park on the side by the tennis court. And they were falling into my yard. And the next day, you wouldn't have believed the mess that had to be picked up around there. I don't know who was doing it, but it was off of Carolyn Street onto Dorn Street. And it was really close. And he said they shouldn't be doing them in the park. Well,
And we had debris on our squad cars.
Yeah.
last year. We had debris
Right.
on the top of the new metal roof last year from the house right over here. I mean, I had an officer who had damage in his vehicle that was parked in our lot from damage. I agree that the pickup, the cleanup is also an issue. But then again, I mean, and that would be technically a violation of the permit. They don't pick up. But
well, that was, I did call last year and I told you that about what was happening in the park. But like you said, you know, you can control everything too.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Jerry, you said that you checked with Shelby and they charge $300 for a permit.
Correct.
What will it take for the town of Campbell, and when and how can we get something like that going? You can't change nothing this year, you say. I don't know why not, but if it's too late, why don't you guys take on something and do it for next year?
Yeah, that's
I mean, it don't make sense to me. It causes a lot of problems. Our police can't handle a lot of stuff at the time. Why put this onto them? I mean, why can't you have, like I say, a community thing? If someone can afford $1,000 in fireworks, so be it. Let them pay the permit of $300 or whatever you want to charge them, and have it in one spot. That way, you are not, getting the whole island involved, and we can't handle it. I mean, common sense. Common sense.
Thanks. Got anything else, Shirley?
No, that's it.
Go ahead.
I mean, get me fired up.
Carrie,
You guys make me mad.
Carrie Ebner, 2517 Island Park Road. If we worry about, I mean, this is just, I have two things, first of all, the fireworks. If we worry about them having homeowners insurance, why are they shooting them off in the park?
Yeah, exactly.
Because if we're giving that, do they have to put where they're shooting them from on that form?
Yeah, the permit's good for their residency.
For their residents?
And if they are in the park, yes, they shouldn't be on the public
No.
park.
Because I mean,
And
that's
very
where it's
enforceable.
for in the field, like the airport. I mean, you can sit. I see more fireworks than you do downtown. I mean, I don't have to go down to Riverfest. But anyway, as long as they quit at 11 o'clock, I don't really. My dog has nervous breakdowns, so that's good. Other than that, the other thing I was wondering about is I lost it. Never mind. That's what happens if you go on something else. Oh, ATVs. Okay.
any of the residents gonna be asking like what we think about it? Or is it just gonna all happen and we're gonna have to put up with it? Because I've seen some people abuse that completely. They got 12-year-old kids, 13-year-old kids zooming up and down the road. And I'm on a back road. I mean, so I can imagine, I can't possibly see that you would want them on Bainbridge Street or Lakeshore Drive. Because I mean, they're going to be, I know that they go 25 miles an hour on, but the whole, I can't even believe we'd open that can of worms. Because, and then not to restrict it to just residents when we're the ones that are going to be the ones dealing with the whole thing. I mean, I know you get some really responsible people that ride ATVs. I would have one if I could. But I also have seen people abuse that. And that's the same thing with snowmobiles. Then are you going to let them run snowmobiles on the roads too? Because that would be the next step up as far as I'm concerned. So it's just a homeowner's...
The difference there is the UTVs and ATVs are legal to operate on highways 35 or less in the state of Wisconsin. Snowmobiles are not.
roads, they must go down the side of the roads. They don't go right
Snowmobiles
down.
are not allowed to be
right.
operated on the road, only to cross.
So if a ATV can ride on a road, then they're going to ride in the middle of the road?
Well, they would be available in the traffic lane, just like a moped or a motorcycle.
And so then okay. All right. That's
So
all I
to
wanted.
that, one of the conversations we did have is trail versus road and some of that ability to restrict. So
there's too much private property on French Island for trails to be created.
yeah. So part of that would be, I think for myself, I would hope that we could have driver's license required at least to be the same as having to be a moped.
Do you have a driver's license? Probably.
What you gotta do, if you drive one of these, you fall underneath the Wisconsin driver's license.
If you're on the road?
You're on the road.
You're on the road.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good.
Yeah. And you must have insurance.
Right. So it's
Just
not the trail adoption, it's the
Okay.
road adoption.
So they have to have a license and they would have to have insurance?
Yes.
Yeah, like a vehicle, I guess.
And they can't drive under the influence? Do all that come in there, Drew?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Drew. Okay, okay. Whatever.
Right.
I don't want it on my road, so there you go.
Yeah, thanks,
I
Gary.
I would suggest that, just like anything in government, Carrie, get some petitions going then. Other people. I mean, that's how the board can make those decisions, whether or not the public wants it.
Go ahead, Joanne.
Joanne Schaller, do we have an ordinance over here, or is there some kind of law over here, or nationwide, whatever, about a vehicle running for more than 5 minutes on a road unattended?
There is.
There is.
Okay, and I mean, like, does that include cars, trucks, semis, bulldozers, you name it, running for long periods of time without being attended?
I'm checking my database here, but I believe so, yes. I believe it's all motorized vehicles have a unattended
Okay, so-
provision in our ordinance.
How do we go about getting that enforced? I'm sure you guys all know the semi that parks out here on Sky Harbor. He goes out there roughly about 5 to 9 every night, and he lets that thing run out there full bore until 9:30 when he leaves. That's 35 minutes unattended. He's got the running lights on it, and those are all on, and the semi is running that long of a time.
So this is maybe the first time hearing of this, what we can certainly
Tend to write that down.
No, I can look at it. I'll have to find, first of all, I'm going to find if there's some kind of state law prohibiting that, and then I have to find out if we have an ordinance prohibiting that. I guess that's never been edited. But I will look into that.
Well, and semis are a bit different. I come from a family of semi-drivers. They do need to heat up a little bit on like a car to get going. They do have a lot. The oil's got a long ways to go before they're just ready to go. So
I realize that, but 35 minutes, sometimes it's even longer.
I don't know. My dad used to let his run for an hour and a half.
This time, it's on a public road though.
But is that area, now is that street zone like commercial?
Yes.
So would that change things?
I don't know. Again, like you, I'd have to look at the ordinance, but
So if I go and I park my vehicle, one of my vehicles on the road, I can leave it run as long as I want to?
Yes. I mean, that's not something to do with, as long as the vehicle's locked, if it's stolen. I mean, I guess, I don't know.
Thanks, Joanne. Anything else? Go ahead, Lee.
So going back to the whole fireworks thing, other than the fact that I have dogs and they lose their marbles with them, I'm able to deal with that. So when is the fee schedule approved? I can't remember.
we can do it, amendments to it whenever. We just didn't have.
But do you do it? I can't remember. Do we do it in the fall?
Typically, you want to do it around budget time because it does affect
So
the
then
budget.
why don't you go ahead and do like a $300 or a $500 and then discuss the permits and approve them for the following year, be able to put the information out in the tax flyers. That way everybody knows. I mean, right now, I can't imagine I can go down the street and knock on people's doors and ask, hey, did you know you have to have a permit to...
Actually, that is a conversation I had with Terry the other day, getting that on discussion for updating the fee schedule before the end of the year for budget. So, I think that was a conversation that will be had.
My point's not that it's 5 days late. All right.
Kind of, yeah.
Anything else? Ben? Go ahead.
Jeff Elm, 1503 Caroline Street. I'm going to ask you a question, Ralph. Are you aware of people going to the doors and asking residents to fill out a paper or sign or being asked questions regarding to the town getting approval loan for our streets and roads?
I am. I'm very well aware of it. Yeah, I was one of them knocking on the door.
And has any of that been approved?
Yes.
And how much money is being approved for the town to put into roads?
It will depend on the grant that is available when we find out mid-July. Toward the end of July, we should find out. The grant's worth up to, if I remember right, $500,000.
And when are you thinking that you're going to do something with our roads and where?
That particular work will happen next summer. That is what this is all about. We've talked about this the last meeting and meeting before.
And when is Dorn Street going to get fixed?
I don't remember if that, you mean the where the plow tore it up a little bit there? I did go and look at it. Yeah, I went and looked at it.
I thought that was one of the roads.
I think Dorn Street needs to be on the first
That's in my zone of repair work that might get done next year, but we won't know until we get our numbers back to find out what kind of a grant we get. So I've been working hard to get your road fixed.
I hope so.
Yeah, most of that grant money, Jeff, would be applied for the south side of French Island. About a mile worth of paving, and I think Dorn Street's included in
Yeah,
that.
it is.
Pretty much Goddard, so.
Literally
Pretty much Goddard, yeah.
Goddard, all the way.
Doors and everything else.
The road past Spearback. What is that? I can't read it.
Is that Williams?
And I'd like to see that so-called fence or whatever that's in one of the play fields or whatever, maybe put on the auction block and maybe take a chance of getting some money for it by selling it.
Selling
Maybe
what?
Chelsea can get some money that way.
Which fence?
The chain link fence up at Nelson.
Well, I can tell you, I had my chain link fence posted on Facebook and everywhere else, Craigslist and everything else for free, and nobody took it.
Well, that's hard. You got to put it out on the boulevard and put $15 on it. It's still a good idea, or a good deal.
It's gone now, but
Go ahead.
giving it away is even difficult.
Mike Jorgensen, 902 Stephen Place. Not to beat a dead horse, but going back to the fireworks. I guess I wasn't clear. the town gives a permit for people to shoot fireworks off, what type of fireworks is the town approving for people to shoot off?
Well, like I've said before, I'm against any fireworks at all, but it's pretty much everything they shoot off, I think, isn't.
I mean, I've heard some pretty big stuff in pretty
Yeah.
good-sized mortars.
Yeah.
And seen them, I mean, we all have. My point is, there's no need to have an ordinance, because state statute prohibits it.
Yeah, it does.
And I don't remember exactly the amount of milligrams or grams of gunpowder that you can have in any fireworks, but if it exceeds a certain amount, it's illegal by state statute, and or if it jumps so far off the ground, and it's not that much, 6-8 inches, if it jumps further than that, it's illegal.
There is a provision in there that does grant the local authority to
supersede.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Otherwise, City of La Crosse would be able to issue a permit for fireworks.
Okay. There's only one agency that is allowed to shoot off fireworks in City of La Crosse. There's only one.
Like I said, I agree with you. No, thanks, Mike. Got anything else?
No,
Okay.
that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, in light of what I heard before about a comment about doing away with public comment, we've had free speech issues over here in the past. I think we should leave that alone the way it is. It works good, and people are able to speak their piece. They pay their tax bill. They should be able to have something to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I have a question. Have you appointed anyone supervisor to take care of this problem I have over at my house? And if you do, how long do I have to wait for any action to be taken?
Well, I'll go look at it again, Andy, and I said if
No, you
if
didn't-
they're
you
going to, that's my area.
No, you
and-
you didn't do anything.
Well, that's because you
You're
went out
right.
and stood underneath the tree and wouldn't let them cut it down.
What's that?
That's because you went and stood underneath the tree and wouldn't let them cut it down.
No, that's untrue.
That is most certainly true. You went out and stood in your yard while they were trying to cut down that big tree because you didn't want any branches falling in your yard. Don't say it isn't true. It's absolutely true.
What tree was it?
They hired a tree crew to come out there and cut that big tree down on the corner of your lot and their lot, and you went and stood out in your yard underneath that tree and wouldn't let the tree service cut it down. The police were called. The tree service ultimately left. That is exactly what happened. If you're willing to do that, I'll go make contact with the ladies and see if they'll get the tree service back up there and cut that tree down.
Written letter. Need a letter to them.
Well, I'm going to talk to them first because they're under no requirement to cut that tree down. That's their private
There's a
property.
number of small scrap saplings along my fence.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one large tree that's hanging over my garage.
You can cut that
And
off.
I have a lot of big boughs from the pines that are 100 feet high hanging over my house.
Okay.
Like I said, I have 3 rafters busted. This is the 3rd time now. This will be the 3rd time.
I understand that, Andy,
they've,
but you have got to be
violated
willing to make
the,
some compromises
ordinance.
too.
They violated the ordinance 3 times. This is the 3rd time.
Well, how did they violate the ordinance? There is no ordinance governing how your trees grow. You can cut down all the branches you want that approach on your property off their trees. You have a legal right to do that.
Yeah, but it's an ongoing thing. They continue to violate the ordinance. These girls. They
What ordinance?
continue to let their foliage encroach into my property.
That's not an ordinance. There's no ordinance that covers that.
According to this, there's let's see.
Andy, why don't you make copies of that and then I'll get them up to me.
Got a copy right here.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a copy that Pat Post wrote up.
All right. You have the original then? That's just a copy?
This is a copy of the original.
Okay.
All I have to do is substitute the names and dates, and then put the fine on there too.
All
Let's
right.
do the fine. I'm tired of that.
Thanks, Andy. You got anything else for us?
No, that's all.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Can I get a motion to close public comment?
Move to close public comment.
I'll second that. We got a motion by Bob, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carried. Let's see, then we're down to closed session. Can I get a motion to go into closed session?
On a roll call. Supervisor Craig? Yes. Supervisor Thorne?
Yes.
Chairman Schaller?
Yes.
Supervisor Bromer? Closed session?
Yes.
Supervisor Wolford?
Yes.